Happy Friday and good evening, Hope TV family. We are so excited that you guys decided to share your Friday night with us. We are the House of Hope Atlanta. Dr. E. Dewey Smith Jr. is our pastor, and we believe that life with God is better in every way, every day. And so tonight we have a very special show for all of our business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals. Tonight we're going to talk about giving people a hand up instead of just a handout. How do we empower others to create wealth and business for themselves? We have a very special guest with us. And while I'm talking about special guests, let me thank our producers and all of our marketing team, all of our staff who works with our Hope TV for providing us with such amazing guests. So tonight we have with us none other than Miss Lori Mann. She's a member of our church. She's very active in the community. She is the owner of Quality Media Consultant Group, and she's written 2 books, Divine Downloads, Loriology, 33 Lessons on Life, Love, and Leadership. And her second book is entitled Tech Magic, How to Launch, Grow, and Scale Your Business Leveraging Technology. Lori Mann, will you say hello to our Hope TV family tonight?
Hello, family. It is such an honor and privilege to be before you. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. I am thrilled to be here.
We're honored to have you. Family, if you're just joining us, we need you to help us out. We need you to share this on all of your social media platforms. I guarantee you that what you hear in our time together tonight is going to empower you as a business owner, young professional, or entrepreneur. So let's talk, Lori. Let's talk a little bit. Let's start by defining philanthropy, because if we're honest, it's really not a term that we hear a lot about in business circles, in some business circles. And so what does philanthropy look like in your context?
Well, I believe that philanthropy is any action or event that you may do to give back to humanity. And that's the human race, of course, and to make a difference in someone's life. And typically when you engage in philanthropy, it involves a sacrifice of time and or money. And we all know that time and money are our biggest assets. And so when you decide to give of your time and your money, that is truly a sacrifice. And so philanthropic efforts to me has to be something that you're doing to better humanity, and it has to have a sacrificial component to it.
I love it. I love it because the sacrifice has a return or yields a return that you can't measure, right? Your community respects you. Your community respects you more as a business when you have a reputation for giving back. And so I'm really glad you said that there's a sacrifice attached to it. But even in that sacrifice, the return is far greater. This conversation is already getting good. We're on question 1. Let me ask you this. What are some challenges? Because I've been talking a lot with a lot of my colleagues about grind culture, that there's this whole addiction to being busy. And as my grandmama would say, a lot of us are just busy doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to ask you, a lot of business owners will say, I want to be more philanthropic, but I'm too busy. I have too much going on. Talk to me about the challenges that you face as a business owner, staying in tune with that philanthropic side. What are some of your challenges? Is it a challenge?
Yeah, it's truly a challenge because, like what you said, a lot of people are often complaining about being time broke, right? People are saying, oh, I don't have the time for this, I don't have the time for that. But one thing for sure, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, and it's up to us how we spend that time. And of course, if we are believers in Christ, then we know some of that time should be dedicated to giving back and doing for other people. And so some of the challenges are not being able to get volunteers and not being able to get people who are committed and passionate to serve, and to serve in a capacity where they're not looking for monetary payment, right? Really that they are committed to volunteering and committed to community service, because that's what it is. And so that's one of the biggest challenges, is not being able to find committed people who are really at the core of who they are, servant leaders, and at the core of who they are, people who want to give back just for the sake of giving back and just for the sake of helping a cause in their community. And just really quickly, I want to piggyback on something that you said a minute ago, and that is many companies and corporations love doing business with small business organizations and or nonprofit organizations because they all have philanthropic arms. So just about every Fortune 500 company has a foundation or a philanthropic arm to what they do. And they know that people prefer to buy from brands that give back to the community. So it's very important in our society to be in alignment with organizations and companies who have those kinds of initiatives.
I love it. I love it. What you're sharing is so helpful. If you're joining us for the first time right now, or if you're just joining in the conversation, we need you to share, share, share. We need you to share this on all of your social media platforms. And of course, you can tag us in your share, but we want to share this valuable information with people who may not be a part of our community already, so that our arms can reach far and wide. All right. There's this whole idea of you take care of you, I'm going to take care of me. That whole spirit has kind of filtered into every area of our society, this kind of meistic, humanist kind of viewpoint or worldview. And so I want to ask you, have you ever wanted to be selfish? Your company has been, you've amassed so much success over the years. Your company has done so well. Have you ever wanted to be selfish and say, listen, I'm not going to give back right now. Let me take care of myself and you figure it out. Have you had those moments, and how did you navigate that?
Yes, I am not ashamed to admit, yes, I have had those moments when I felt, you know what, I'm going to just do me. Because people don't understand the plight, they don't understand the sacrifice. So let me just do me. And every time I had one of those thoughts, God arrested that thought in my mind and said, I didn't just put you on this earth for you to just do you. So even though that is human nature, it is also something that if you have a servant's heart, you suppress that and you put it down because you say to yourself, I'm doing this work as if I'm doing it unto the Lord. And so because of that, you have to have the heart that's always open and ready to give. And so at those times when I do feel like being selfish, I have to step back and say, okay, God called me to do this work and I know he's called me to do it. So I don't have the option or the privilege of just being out for me. I have to do what he's asked me to do.
I love it. So there's a God element for you. Your faith kind of informs your desire to give and your commitment to giving back. I love it. So I want to talk a little bit about motivation, because in this season of pandemic and so many other things that we are dealing with that are just kind of like ripple effects of the pandemic, I've been
Yeah.
talking a lot about collective trauma. We're in a season where we're all hurting in some way. And so
Yeah.
I want to talk about your motivation. There's a book that I read a while back called Know Your Why. And so, how do you stay motivated not only to do business, but to reach back and help others? What's your why? Why did you get into this in the first place? Let's hear a little bit about your story.
Well, I am from Michigan originally, and I was raised by two people, my mom and dad, who both were believers and are believers in Christ. My dad is deceased. My mom is still here, thankfully. But one of the reasons why I got into business, number one, was because I was downsized. And that downsizing led to a depression, never diagnosed, but just, kind of sad. And also, shortly after that, my father passed. And so I was struggling, trying to figure out, God, what is my purpose? What is my destiny? What would you have me to do? And so I started to realize that unless I would seek God for the answers to my life, I would forever be in a quandary, and I would forever be unsure and uncertain about how I should lead the rest of my life. And so, in searching for my purpose, I had to get on my knees and start on my knees rather, excuse me, and start to pray. So my why is I believe that I am supposed to lead people to Christ in everything I do. I believe that I'm supposed to give God the glory in everything I do. And I believe that I am supposed to help people figure out what their divine purpose is by being an example. And so in my family, I've had issues of obesity, diabetes, and hypertension. And all of those things have played out in the genetics in my family, which some would call generational curses. But I decided to look at it as an opportunity for growth. And I wanted to get into philanthropy to inspire people in my community and people in my family to live better, to live healthier. And despite the fact that we have bad things all around us, from advertising to eating junk food and all these things that promote unhealthy lifestyles, that we can choose to live a healthier lifestyle if we just make some minor adjustments.
Stop everything. You knew I was going to stop you because that's how we met. You and I met through Thrive Healthy, I think it was.
Live
And so,
healthy
you
and
know,
thrive.
live healthy and thrive. So I need you to do me a favor right now. Can you talk to us about your program for young people? Because I didn't know that this was your wheelhouse and that this was something that you had been doing for years. So come on, talk to us about that endeavor and what it means, because I think it's important.
Well, thank you. As a business owner, it was important for me to have a philanthropic effort to what I do as a business professional. And so 11 years ago, I started a nonprofit, which is a 501c3 nonprofit called Live Healthy and Thrive Youth Foundation. And it's a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to children's health and wellness. And through our programs, we empower and educate children about leading healthier lives so they can grow up and become the leaders of tomorrow. And what we deal with are three issues, and that's obesity, diabetes, and hypertension, because these are the debilitating conditions and illnesses that can truly affect a child's life and prevent them from being healthy. And we all know without health, there is no wealth. So they won't have the future. They won't have a better life if they don't start out making great choices and learning how to use their bodies as the temples that God created, and making sure that they have healthy habits so they can grow up and have those choices that are going to prepare them for the life that who knows what's going to be like 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now.
I love it. I love it. So let me pause right here, because you've already shared, we know through your consulting company, your consulting firm, that you've amassed a lot of success. You've done great over the years. We know that you have this philanthropic arm, Live Healthy and Thrive. And I'm looking at all of this and I'm saying, where does she find the time to do all of this? So talk to me about balance. How do you balance both your mind as a businesswoman, as a boss, right? And also this philanthropic part of who you are. And I'm sure you have a life. You have other things that you do. You have, I know your
Yeah.
mom, I know you take time with her, you have sisters. So talk to me about that. How do you balance it all? Lori, tell us. We need to know.
Well, the balance come in when it's learning how to prioritize what's important. And so when you have an idea of what your goals are, what your dreams are, and your visions, then you have to basically reverse engineer that 24 hours that you get and think about, okay, based upon what I want to accomplish this week, X number of hours has to be spent towards that goal, and X number of hours has to be spent towards this goal. And so that's all I do. And what I can get done in that time that I've allowed it, I get it done. And then what I can't get done, I negotiate for more time. So it's about, number one, focus, and then prioritization, and then really maximizing the time that you have. Because if you really look at your schedule and you really look at your day, this is what I talk about with some of my clients in my consulting business. I always tell them, I bet you I can find at least 90 minutes in your day that you're wasting. Right. And so many people are like, oh, no, I don't waste any time. And then when you really get into it and you ask them how they spend their time, or you ask them to log their time, there's always some time in there that we waste. Every single person is guilty of it. I don't care if it's 20 minutes that you waste, an hour, or 90 minutes, whatever it is, you waste some time during the day. And if we can be cognizant of the time that we spend doing things that are not going to yield us the results that we want, then we can begin to make a difference and stop saying that we're time broke, stop saying that we're busy being busy, and just really come away with, okay, I know I wasted a good hour on social media when I wasn't doing nothing but just looking at everybody else's stuff, you know?
Right.
And there are other things that, you know, rob people of their time that they just don't really understand because they're not paying attention. So to me, I balance by paying attention to the things that are not getting me the results that I want, and I just stop, you know. And I also have a timer like everybody else on their phone. When I do certain things, I time myself because I want to know how long it takes me to be productive. And when I figure out, okay, I spent an hour doing that, I wonder if I could do it in 45 minutes next time. So I challenge myself to be more productive than what I was the day before.
Thank you for sharing that. I've been talking to some of our guests about their story, because behind every entrepreneur, every business owner, those who are successful, there is a story. And so I'm going to ask you to be a little vulnerable with us. You're in a safe place. Boss Up is a place where you can be honest as a professional and as a business owner. So I want to ask you, what has been your most painful lesson that you've learned as a boss? Because you said you started off a few minutes ago with your statement sharing that you pivoted due to downsizing, right? And that's what launched you into your own business. And so there are a lot of things that come along with pivoting, right? This is the season of the pivot. So talk to us about maybe your most painful lesson and how you took that lesson and made it a blessing.
Well, if I were to start talking about painful lessons, we'd probably be here all day, because I've had many. The downsizing from corporate America, that was a painful lesson. But once I got into business, and I realized that I was actually helping people who I never would have met had I not launched my own business, who I never would have met had I not launched my own nonprofit, I realized that being downsized from corporate America was a blessing in disguise. And God wanted me to leave, and I actually had typed up resignation letters before I actually got downsized. And so it was time, but because I was making so much money in that position, and, you know, multi six figures in corporate America is really, you know, a nice piece of change to walk away from. It was hard for me to do that. And so as an entrepreneur and a philanthropist, I will say one of the painful lessons was not having systems in place, right? Because systems save you time, sanity, energy, money, right? Systems actually can save you a lot of things. And so if you have a systematic approach to your life, to your business, and I'm not saying you have to be regimented, and I'm not saying you have to have everything on the clock, but I am saying you have to have a rhyme or a reason to what you do, how you do, when you do, and why you do. And so when you have systems in your life and in your business, particularly, it helps you to flow smoother. It helps things to get done easier and more productively. So, you know, just think about it. If you have a business and you're a boss and you need to hire someone to help you, but you don't have a process or a formula laid out for how you get done, whatever it is that you need to get done, that person is going to come in and go, what you want me to do? How do I start? Where do I go? You know, they're not going to know. And so that's so important is having systems in your, whether you run a business, a nonprofit, a for-profit, whatever it is that you're doing, have some systems in place, some policies and some agendas and some processes for how you get things done and make sure it is productive.
Now that
Once you
point is
time,
valuable.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Keep going.
Once you waste the time, you can't get it back. So
Yeah,
systems are going to help you to be productive.
Yes,
So yeah.
I was just thinking that is invaluable for several reasons, but mainly because I think in management, we often are guilty of dumping instead of delegating, right? So we try to
Yeah.
get people to help us do things, but because we don't have our processes formalized or in writing, it's very hard for them to complete those tasks, and we end up doing it anyway. So
Right.
I love what you shared. I love what you shared about developing processes. So let's move a little bit because we only have like 10 more minutes. I told you, Boss Up goes by really quickly, especially when the conversation is good. If you're just joining us, welcome, welcome. We need you to share this on all of your social media platforms. Boss Up is on tonight, and we are talking about giving people a hand up instead of a handout. If you teach a man or a woman to fish, they will eat for the rest of their lives. But if you just give them a fish, they eat for a day. And so I love this whole idea of philanthropy and what it means to us, especially as an African American community. So I want to ask you a question as we close out our show. I want to ask you to give me 3 business tips. Now, you've already talked to us about time management. You've already talked to us a little bit about prioritization, but just give me some practical business tips, even with the kind of paperwork that we file with the SBA loans and everything that's going on. Give me 3 quick tips for business owners so that our viewing audience can walk away with some meat for their business.
Okay. So if I were to talk to you about just general business tips, one thing I would say is to plan. Okay. So every business owner needs to have a business plan, even if it's just a 2-page, 5-page, 10-page plan. It doesn't have to be an epistle document, but you do need to lay out what your business goals are, what it is that you're trying to accomplish, what is your brand all about, what is your brand strategy, your brand structure, your brand promise. Know those things, know what your mission, your vision, and your goals are. Know something about marketing or hire someone to help you. Figure out what your marketing structure is and your marketing strategy is. So basically, the financials also comes into play when you're talking about planning. So I'm telling you that the business plan is important because a lot of people start businesses without any clue as to where they're trying to go. Why did you start the business in the first place? What do you want to accomplish in the first year, the third year, the fifth year? Because see, if you don't have a plan, you'll be all over the place and undoubtedly you'll be floundering and you won't have accomplished much at the end of your first or second year. So have a plan. That's the first thing. And the second thing I would say is learn about resources, practical resources in your industry. Where can you go to find loans? Where can you go to find free money like grants? Where can you go to find scholarships for women in business or minorities? Look at places that have practical resources where you can go. And there's so many. For example, if you are a nonprofit leader in the Atlanta area where we are, there's the Community Foundation of Atlanta. That's a resource for people. There's also ACE Business Loans. That's a place where you can go and get loans for your business. There's also United Way if you're a nonprofit leader. But then if you are a business owner, then you can look at places where you can go get certified. And when you get certifications, you position yourself for contracts with corporations as well as Fortune 500 companies who want to work with entrepreneurs. And so the next thing I would say is pray. You have to have a spirit of prayer if you call yourself a Christian, because entrepreneurship is a faith walk. It is a journey, not a sprint. And you have to ask God to lead you, guide you, and direct you in all things. Because once I stopped trying to be the CEO of my business and I asked God to lead it, then things took a turn for the better.
I love it. I love it because when we talk about, I don't want to get too deep, but with Psalm 23, I had an opportunity to kind of look at that psalm so differently because we always attribute the characteristics of God in that scripture to shepherd, but a shepherd was nothing but a manager, right? That
Yes.
God is the best manager. And when we invite God into our lives and into our business, there's a result that we could never accomplish on our own. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And I want to just ask, listen, there are some people who are watching and they're saying, I need some of her energy in my life. I need her wisdom. How do we find you? How can we reach out to you to get some of these practical business principles that you've introduced?
Thank you. I would say please reach out to me at my company website, which is www.qualitymediaconsultants.com. And if you can't remember that, my name, LoriMans.com, is another way you can reach out to me. And I'm on the internet. All you got to do is type in my name, Lori A. Mans, and a ton of stuff will come up. Connect with me on any social media platform at I am Lori Mans. And I would love, love, love to engage with you, help you in any way I can. And please mention House of Hope and you'll get treated extra special.
Yeah. Before you go, really quickly, tell us about Thrive. Tell us how we can support that endeavor as well, because we may have some people who are watching and they are feeling philanthropic after this conversation. Yeah. So how can we sow into that?
Thank you. So, of course, any donations you make to Live Healthy and Thrive Youth Foundation are tax deductible. And you can find us at livehealthyanddriveyouth.org. That's livehealthyanddriveyouth.org. And can I say one more thing?
Sure.
So this is another tip that I want to leave with any person who is an entrepreneur in business. Never be afraid to pivot when you are seeking profits, because in this pandemic, everyone has had to pivot by putting things online and doing things virtually. So if you don't have a digital brand, you don't have a digital footprint, then you are failing to pivot and your profits are going to be affected. So always pivot when you see the sign of the times coming and people are online for a reason. That's because, you know, things are different these days and we don't know how long it's going to be different. So you need to have something that you're selling online and making sure that you can sell something without anyone having to speak to you. And that's my final tip.
Hey, I appreciate you sharing that. There's somebody who's watching that needed that last word. And so I want to say again, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Boss Up Show on Hope TV. We believe that life with God is better in every way, every day. And in the words of our senior pastor, Dr. E. Dewey Smith, if you are good to God, I promise you God will be good to you. Have a safe weekend, family.